Picture this. It is 4 o'clock in the morning.
Ugh.
It's the absolute dead of winter.
Oh,
You know, that kind of cold, the kind that feels like it has a physical weight to it.
the kind where the air just hurts your face.
Exactly. It's pitch black outside. The
Yeah.
world is just frozen. Now, if this were me, I am buried under a duvet, probably bargaining with my alarm clock, trying to calculate the absolute minimum amount of time I need to get ready so I can just sleep for 6 more minutes.
I think that's most of us, right?
But somewhere, right now, a man is waking up. And he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't hit snooze. He climbs out of the warmth, walks to the bathroom, and takes a ritual cold bath.
Wow. Ice water.
Ice water.
Mm.
And then shivering, he sits down and begins his prayers.
It creates a very, very intense image, doesn't it?
It does. And I want to be clear here. This isn't some New Year, New Me phase. This isn't a 30-day discipline challenge he saw on Instagram.
Yeah.
This is every single day of his life.
Yeah. That level of consistency, it implies something much deeper than just habit. It implies a whole worldview.
Right. And the source material we're looking at today paints this guy in such high definition. He recites scripture morning and evening. But there was one detail in the reading that really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
And I honestly found it kind of unsettling.
The television?
The television. When he watches TV, if a sermon comes on, he sits bolt upright, rigid, hands folded in his lap.
And he stays like that even when the commercials start.
Yes. He's staring at a toothpaste ad with the same reverence he gives to a holy text. It's strange.
It is fascinating because it shows a total lack of separation between the sacred and the profane. To him, the screen itself has become a kind of portal.
So if you were walking past his window and you saw this, the cold baths, the prayers, the posture, you would think, okay, that guy's a fortress. That man has found peace.
You'd assume his internal world is as ordered as his external discipline.
Exactly. You'd think he has it all figured out. But, and here's the trap, and where we're starting our deep dives today, we're looking at a personal narrative essay. It's titled The Paradox of Devotion and Personal Responsibility.
And it's written by this man's son-in-law.
Yes. And the second the author invites us inside the house,
What?
that whole image of the holy man completely disintegrates.
It's a really jarring shift, and it sets up the mission for this deep dive. We aren't just critiquing a family dynamic here.
No.
We're exploring the friction between that unwavering, rigid spiritual devotion and the messy, brutal reality of actually taking responsibility for your life.
It's the difference between performing the rituals of life and actually, living it.
Precisely. It raises these massive questions about fate, about agency, and honestly, about the purpose of suffering.
So, okay, let's peel back that curtain. We have the 4 a.m. prayers, we have the discipline. But what is the actual reality inside the walls of this house?
It's heartbreaking, really. The essay paints a picture of a man who is physically frail, constantly sick, and weak.
So the discipline isn't translating to health.
Not at all. He's living in a house that he built with his own 2 hands decades ago. But the dynamic has shifted so drastically that he feels like a guest in his own home.
A guest or an intruder.
Probably closer to an intruder. He's isolated. There is a daughter-in-law and a grandson living there, but he's totally excluded from the family structure. Nobody asks his advice. Nobody leans on his years of wisdom. He's just there.
See, that defies my expectation.
What?
Usually in these multi-generational homes, the elder is the patriarch. He's the one calling the shots.
That's the expectation for sure, but here the power dynamic is completely flipped. And it's flipped because of the son.
The son. This is the dark cloud hanging over the whole narrative.
The source details that the son who lives with him is struggling with a severe drug addiction.
Right.
And the author is careful to point out this isn't a functional addiction. This is the kind that, tears the drywall down. It's violent. It's chaotic.
And in this family culture, the son is supposed to be the caregiver, right?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be looking after the father.
Traditionally, yes. The son is the retirement plan. He is supposed to be the protector.
Yeah.
But instead, he's the predator.
Oh.
He mistreats the father. He screams at him. So you have this man who spends every waking moment in prayer, supposedly connected to the divine, living in what is essentially a domestic hellscape.
And that leads us to the central question the author poses.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the question I was shouting at the page while I was reading.
Yeah.
How does the input not match the output?
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's the basic equation of life, isn't it? If you put in the work, you get the result. If this guy is giving his entire life to God, if he's freezing himself in a bath at 4 a.m., shouldn't he get something back? Shouldn't he get protection? or at least a little bit of respect in his own kitchen.
It's the classic problem of theodicy.
Whoa, okay, theodicy. That is a very heavy academic word. We need to unpack that before we move on.
Fair enough. Theodicy is very simply the attempt to answer the question. If God is good and God is powerful, why do bad things happen to good people?
The oldest question in the book.
It is. Why is there evil? Why is there suffering? If I do a prayer, why don't I get the blessing?
Right. And usually we don't get an answer. But what makes this source material so interesting is that we have two people looking at this exact same tragedy.
A father-in-law and the narrator.
And they have two completely contradictory answers. They're looking at the same car crash, but seeing two different causes.
Exactly. They're operating in different realities.
So let's look at the father-in-law first, the holy man. Now, I'm going to make an assumption here. If I were him, sick, mistreated, watching my son destroy himself, I would be furious.
You'd think so.
I'd be shaking my fist at this guy asking for a refund on all those prayers. Does he question his faith?
Not for a second. In fact, the source implies his faith is stronger than ever. And this is where we have to really stretch our empathy to understand his worldview, because it is very different from the modern Western mindset.
How so?
We tend to view prayer transactionally. I pray for the promotion, I get the promotion, I pray for health, my back stops hurting.
It's a vending machine.
Right. He doesn't see it that way. To him, prayer is about the unseen, the supernatural, the eternal. He operates on a theology where humans are simply not the decision makers. The text uses a very specific theatrical metaphor.
I remember this.
He believes we are actors following a script written long before we were born.
A script? That is, well, it's terrifying, actually.
It is, isn't it? It implies that everything is pre-approved.
So wait, if everything is a script, then his son's addiction, the violence,
Yeah.
his own illness.
It's all permitted by God. In his eyes, the son's addiction isn't a failure of parenting. It's not a societal issue. It's not a chemical imbalance. It's likely karma.
Karma, like from a past life.
Yes, a debt from a past life that simply must be paid.
Wow. So the logic is, it's not my fault. It's not really even my son's fault. It's just the scene we are in.
Precisely. It's a fatalistic worldview. Nothing happens without divine permission. And if you truly believe that, if you believe the script is already written, then fighting against the reality, trying to fix the addict.
It's almost like fighting God, which drives the narrator absolutely crazy.
Wow, completely. The narrator is the voice of modern agency. He believes in cause and effect.
Right.
He looks at this house and he doesn't see a divine mystery. He sees a crime scene of bad decisions.
The narrator actually challenges the father in the text, right? He asks him, shouldn't years of discipline at least give you control over your own body, over your own house?
And the father gently disagrees. He essentially smiles and says, "You don't understand the mystery." But the narrator, he digs deeper. He argues that when someone becomes addicted, it isn't just destiny.
No.
It involves mechanics. It involves unaddressed pain. It involves unchecked behavior.
There was a line in the essay that really stood out to me. The narrator describes the family dynamic as having silence where hard conversation should have occurred.
That is the crux of the conflict. The father sees the son's addiction and thinks this is the burden we must bear because it was written for us.
And the narrator sees the addiction and thinks this is a problem we failed to solve because we were too scared to talk about it.
It's a massive clash. Fate versus choice.
But I want to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go ahead.
Is the narrator being too harsh? I mean, looking at an old man who is suffering and telling him, hey, this is actually your fault because you didn't have a hard conversation 20 years ago, that feels cruel.
It does feel harsh. But we have to look at why the father holds on to his view. Is he just pious? Or is he coping?
You think the fatalism is a coping mechanism?
I think the source strongly suggests it is. Think about the psychological utility of believing in the script. If I mess up my life, if my kid goes off the rails, it is agonizing to look in the mirror and say, I did this, I failed.
Oh, I see. It's a defense mechanism.
It's a huge one. It's a shield against guilt. If the son's addiction is karma, the father never has to ask the really dark questions. Was I too strict? Was I too distant? Did I ignore the signs when he was 15?
Right.
If it's the script, then the father is innocent. He's just an actor saying his lines.
That is a powerful comfort.
Exactly.
It makes the unbearable
Yeah.
bearable. I mean, we all do this to some degree, don't we? I'm just bad at math instead of I didn't study.
Exactly. It's just my personality. It's just my zodiac sign. We love to outsource our agency because agency carries the weight of responsibility. But the deep dive here, the insight the author wants us to get, is that there is a cost to that comfort, a very high cost.
That's the cost.
The source calls it a blind spot.
Because he was looking at the script, he missed the reality.
He was so focused on the divine mystery, the 4 a.m. bath, the posture during commercials, that he missed the mechanics of what was happening right in front of him by not confronting the behavior early.
Right, because why would you? It wouldn't
Yeah.
change the script.
Exactly. So the chain of cause and effect just went completely unnoticed.
So avoiding the discomfort of a hard conversation in the short term led to this massive tragedy in the long term.
That's it. The father sees destiny, the narrator sees accumulated decisions. And the source uses a fantastic analogy to explain this. The rearview mirror.
I love this part. It's about driving, right?
Yes. Imagine you are driving a car. The rearview mirror represents the past, karma, history, what has already happened. Now, is the rearview mirror useful?
Of course. You need to know what's behind you. You need context. You need to know where you came from.
Right. But you cannot drive the car looking only in the rearview mirror. If you do that, what happens?
You crash immediately.
You crash because you aren't looking at the road. You need the windshield. You need to see what is coming now.
In this analogy, the father is staring into the mirror. He's explaining the crash by looking at where he's been. Oh, this crash is happening because of the road 5 miles back.
While the narrator is screaming, "Look out the windshield, turn the wheel!"
It's so tragic when you frame it like that.
It is. And the source makes a profound point here about pain. In the father's view, the rearview mirror view pain is punishment. It's paying a debt. I am suffering because of the past.
But the narrator suggests pain is something else.
He suggests pain is feedback.
Feedback. I really like that distinction.
Think about the check engine light in your car. When that light comes on, it's annoying. It stresses you out. But is the car trying to punish you? Is it trying to make you feel bad about yourself?
No. It's telling me something is wrong.
Exactly. It's telling you that something needs attention right now. If your relationships are falling apart, if your house is chaotic, that's not necessarily a spiritual test or a karmic debt. It might just be feedback that your communication style isn't working.
Or that your boundaries are too weak.
Or sure.
That is a crucial shift.
Yeah.
Feedback versus punishment. One empowers you to fix it. The other just tells you to endure it.
And this leads to the distinction the source makes about faith. And I think this is important because the source isn't anti-faith.
No, not at all.
It acknowledges that for many, faith is vital. It gives community, it gives hope, but it distinguishes between faith that inspires action and faith that replaces it.
Oh, that's good. Faith that replaces action. That's the escape hatch.
Exactly. Healthy faith, according to the narrator, should fuel courage. It should make you brave enough to have the hard conversation with the addicted son, not just pray for him from the other room.
Right.
When faith becomes a reason to avoid reality, it stops being devotion and starts being avoidance.
It's a tough pill to swallow, though, because taking responsibility is hard. It's messy. Honestly, it's easier to sit in the chair and recite the scripture than it is to confront a violent family member who you love.
It is incredibly hard. We shouldn't minimize that. The father is in a terrible situation, but the source argues that the uncomfortable truth is that our lives reflect our patterns. We aren't all powerful. We can't control the weather or the economy.
Or other people's choices.
Or other people's choices entirely, but we aren't helpless.
We aren't helpless. I think that's the message the narrator is desperate to get across to his father-in-law.
Yes. We cannot control the script of the universe, but we can control our performance in the scene. We can control how we react.
So, bringing this all together, we have this tragic figure, the father-in-law, who views his suffering as a script he has to act out.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the narrator who sees missed opportunities and avoided conflicts. The source ends with a specific pivot.
A change in the question we ask ourselves.
Exactly. It says we have to stop asking, why did God do this? That's the victim question. That's the rearview mirror question.
And instead ask,
what can I do now?
what can I do now? It is such a simple shift, but it's everything.
It really is.
It changes you from a victim of fate into a participant in your own life. Even if the situation is dire, even if the script up to this point has been tragic, asking, what can I do now, hands the pen back to you.
It acknowledges that while you didn't write the beginning, you can certainly contribute to the ending. It reminds me of that saying, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. The father-in-law is just letting the waves crash over him because he thinks the ocean is angry at him. The narrator is saying, grab a board.
That's a great way to put it. And the tragedy of the source material is that the father-in-law, for all his discipline, for all those cold 4 a.m. baths, is missing out on the one thing he probably wants most: peace. Real peace.
Because he thinks peace is submission.
He thinks peace is surrender to the script. But the source suggests that real peace comes from agency. It comes from engaging with the messiness of life, not trying to rise above it.
It's a heavy topic, but I think it forces us to look at our own lives. Where are we using fate or bad luck or even personality quirks as an excuse to stay in the rearview mirror?
Exactly. Where are we ignoring the feedback because we'd rather believe it's just our lot in life?
Well, that is certainly something to chew on for the rest of the day.
It is indeed.
We want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It was a tough one, but I think a necessary one.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.